many of you have had ongoing exposure to people who have a real strong narcissistic bent. And after time, I know you're worn out, aren't you? Whether it's someone who's inside your family or someone that you've lived with or worked with or been in the social circle with or other kind of situations. And finally you decide, I've got to get away from this person. Now, I understand that there are times when it's easier said than done. People say, well, just leave them. Well, some people can and some people can't. But today I want to talk with you about how to successfully disengage and move away from that narcissistic individual. And I'm talking about more than just the physical elements. I'm talking about mentally and emotionally how you can disconnect so that you can get on with a healthy life. One of the things that happens when you've been surrounded by that narcissistic influence is it robs you of your ability to be you. And so that's what we're wanting to do. We're trying to find out, how do I get me back? So I have 7 keys that I want to talk with you about today that are essential as we try to move away from those who have that narcissistic bent. By the way, you'll notice Gus in the background. I'm not trying to move away from him. I'm sticking with him. So he's not included in this discussion. You just know that. Okay, sorry about that. So the first key that I think that you're going to agree with me that's very essential as you're trying to make your adjustment and moving away from that person is make sure you know exactly what you're dealing with this narcissist. Many times you've had that exposure to the narcissistic misbehavior, and it's very easy for you to think, what did I do wrong? Or why are you acting this way toward me? Let's keep in mind the narcissistic pattern can be very predictable. These are individuals who are going to act that way, whether it's you that's in front of them or someone else. They have very high needs for control, which sets them up to be terribly self-absorbed and insensitive. They don't really care about what somebody else thinks, which means they have low levels of empathy. They hold themselves above you. They show low levels of concern about your needs, and so they'll step all over you. And so rather than thinking, why are you doing this to me? I think it's going to be more important to ask, what's going on inside of this other person so you can have objectivity as you're dealing with this. I want you to conclude that whatever they have going on is not a referendum about you. It's a referendum about their own difficult, strained life, and they want to blame you for all of their flaws and all of their woes and anger and all of that. But the more you know about the nature of narcissism and the predictability of the pattern, then I'm hoping you can remove yourself from the equation of blame and having to take responsibility for who that person is. A second key is I want you to see the emptiness on the inside of the narcissist. Now, it's really interesting for you to recognize narcissists build their feelings of security on externals, and that includes you. If they think that if they can get everything lined up correctly on the outside, if I can make you act correctly, if I can make you respond correctly, if I can make you prioritize your life correctly, if I can just cause you to join me, then I'm going to be happy. Well, what that says is they're empty on the inside. They don't have anything in their interior to draw upon, which means that they have to have their exterior right. And I'm hoping that you can acknowledge this means that whatever their guiding thoughts are or guiding philosophies are A, going to be very shallow, and B, they're not very well conceived. These people operate with a very low level of insight, and they tend to be more reactive than proactive in their approach toward life. And again, by recognizing this can allow you to realize, okay, I need to unhook from that. It's called narcissistic supply. I don't need to continue to be their narcissistic supply, which then leads to point number 3, or the third key, and that is you need to acknowledge that you were an extension of that person's identity. You see, because they have such emptiness on the inside, then they basically build who they are based on all the garbage that's around them. For example, it may be that they see you as being somebody that doesn't reason right in the way you handle family things. And so they consider themselves to be the one that has to set everybody straight. And so their reaction is a reaction actually to you. And as a result, if they go to someone else, then they're going to build their identity based on what that other person does. You're not required to fit anyone else's mold. They're trying to get you into a mold because they don't have anything to draw from on the inside, and you don't exist to make that person look good. That person is an empty individual. So the more you have an understanding of that, then the easier it's going to be for you to move on. Now, the fourth key, and this is probably the most important one. Whether you're alone or with an advisor or counselor or confidant, recall some of the examples of the narcissist's control over you. And then I want you to identify some of the emotion that is associated with those control ingredients or those control episodes. And you want to ask yourself, what did my emotions try to communicate about where I was at the inside? For example, let's suppose as you go back and you see how the narcissist had a lot of controlling agenda for you, you remember feeling really angry and frustrated because of all of that. All right, pause on that. What was my anger trying to say? Well, in that case, your anger was trying to say, I deserve better, or I can't stand it when people act towards me in a condescending way. Listen to the core of that message. I deserve better. And then we're going to use that as a foundation that we're going to build upon. Or it may be that as you recall some of the control messages from the narcissist, you remember feeling shame. Well, what was that telling you? Well, the shame was your way of presuming, I guess I don't have any worth on the inside. Well, let's rethink that. Was that a true message? And as you think through that, then I'm hoping you can recognize, that shame had a message that I need to adjust and I need to move away from. I don't want to go to that place. I need to listen to what it was telling me and rethink that. Or it may be that when the narcissist was controlling and insensitive, you had fear. You were guarded and justifying and rationalizing. What does my fear tell me? Well, the fear says, I don't trust myself. I have to always justify who I am. And we're going to look at that and ask, if the message is there, then I need to listen to that message, which then takes us to key number 5. And that is restructure your foundational beliefs about who you actually are. Restructure your foundational message about where you want to go in your life. Rather than thinking, well, I guess I have to filter everything through what that narcissist says. I'm always a reactor. Nope. If you're going to successfully move on in that relationship, you get to ask the question, who am I? Where do I want to go? What are my core values? What are my lifestyle preferences? And if I decide to do something and the narcissist used to say, well, you're no good because of that, well, what do I say? And you give yourself permission to go into a redefining kind of mode. This is who I am. This is how I define myself. And let's acknowledge that it's not just okay for you to have your unique set of preferences. It's necessary. You are a unique person. There's 7 billion of us on the earth, and no one's exactly like you. And you want to learn to live into the uniqueness of who you are. Now, a 6th key that we can have is you do want to try you do want to think about how you're going to manage yourself if and when you bump into that narcissist down the road. For example, if it's a family member or somebody that you used to live with or a coworker, even though you want to go no contact, it may be that you'll still have some interaction for whatever reason it might be. How do you want to behave? Now, if you go back to contempt and hatred and bitterness, all that tells me is the narcissist still has you. You haven't moved on all the way. It may be that you'll have to decide the best I can come up with is blandness. Okay, that's better than harshness or meanness. Or sometimes you need to confront and say, I know that you have certain preferences for me. I'm not going there with you anymore. And so you need to know how to establish your boundaries when necessary. But basically, knowing that there are the possibilities of you engaging with them or people that have been connected with them, you need to have a game plan as to how you're going to manage yourself so that you don't get caught in that being tethered emotionally to the old narcissist. And then finally, the 7th key is use your experiences that you had with the narcissist as an inspiration to live into a much healthier way of life with other individuals. I'm hoping that having old, lousy, crummy experiences to draw upon can prompt you to say, I want to make sure that I'm not that kind of person in the way that I engage with others. I know what it feels like to be on the receiving end of a narcissist's harshness and condescension and control. Therefore, I have that much more of a determination to say, you're going to see a much cleaner alternative in me. And that's my way of saying I'm released. I'm unhooked from that person. I have a much better way of life. Now, when you first were getting to know that narcissistic individual, you had no idea at the time what you were getting yourself into, or even if you saw some flags, you didn't have any idea that it was going to be as difficult as it was. But from this day forward, I want you to see that you can choose to have the insight, the awareness, the planning, and the determination that says, because of my difficulties with this individual, I'm going to go in a much better path. And I'm going to use my experiences as a springboard for good. When that happens, you know that you've successfully unhooked, and I'm hoping that you could have good luck and much better relationships on the way as you continue on in your path. Now, I do hope that you find videos such as this helpful. When you watch my videos, try to stay awake, unlike Gus back there. Anyway, Gus is a good boy. I'm not about to leave him, that's for sure. Beneath the video, you're going to see the subscribe button. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and hit that button and we'll keep you aware when other videos come along. Also, you're going to see some resources, links to some of my books and online workshops, and also the possibilities of online counseling if that's something you would need. And so I hope you would avail yourself to that. Know that I really like being with you on your journey. And I say that with all sincerity. I'm so honored that that you would come here and then comment with the people in our community so that we can together make a determination that says we can all do better. And when we do it together, then our sense of strength is that much more profound. And so good luck to you as you continue forward, and I will see you next time.